Hello students, welcome to my lecture, Nutrition in Animal. In the previous lecture, I had explained you the nutrition in the plant, means how plant get their nutrition. So in that lecture, I had explained you plant get their nutrition by the process of photosynthesis. But if we talk about nutrition in animal, it is quite different, because animals are the heterotrophic organisms, and heterotrophic organisms means those organisms who totally depend on other organisms to obtain their food, to get the energy. So animals obtain their food from plant, other animals and their products, right? So on the basis of their habit, on the basis of the food habit, there are three categories of the animal. The herbivore animals means that those animals who eat only plant and plant product, right? They are totally dependent on the plant and its product, like in the form of fruit, vegetables, pulses, grains, leaves, etc. For example, cow, rabbit, deer, horse, etc. Second category is omnivore organisms, which means omnivore animal, which means that those animals, those organisms who eat both plant as well as animal. So they can depend on both material, plant as well as animal, such as human beings, dog, bear, crow, cat, etc. And the third category is carnivore organisms. So carnivore means that those organisms who eat only flesh, those animals who depend on other animals to get their energy. They never depend on the plant product, such as snake, lion, tiger, hawk, kingfisher, shark, etc. Right? Now move ahead with the explanation of the how single-celled organisms get their nutrition, obtain their food. So in this chapter, I will explain you how amoeba obtain their food, because amoeba is an example of single-celled organism, right? Single-celled organism, which means it is unicellular organisms, right? Unicellular organism, which means whose body is made up of only a single cell. So in case of amoeba, as I told you, this is unicellular organism. So this is the cell of amoeba, and inside its cell, this is a nucleus. Here is the cytoplasm fluid. Now outside its body, this is a food particle. Now when this food particle came close to its body surface, then this cell project some finger-like projection that is known as pseudopodia. The pseudopodia is also known as false feet of amoeba. Now by the help of this pseudopodia, amoeba grab this food material, right? After grabbing, this food material digested and assimilated inside the cell of amoeba, which means here inside the amoeba, digestion and assimilation, both steps are going on. And after the digestion, this residual waste product digested out, excrete out from the body of amoeba, which means this amoeba includes digestion by the help of the pseudopodia, digestion, and finally excrete the food material through its body surface. So this mechanism is known as diffusion, because in case of amoeba, food enter in the body of amoeba by diffusion and excrete out also through the diffusion mechanism. But if we move towards the higher organism, like in the human being, the mode of nutrition is quite complex, because in case of human being, there is a holozoic mode of nutrition. Holozoic mode of nutrition means it includes various complex steps, like ingestion, like digestion, then assimilation, and finally digestion. So it follows various steps: the entry of food, digestion of food, and digestion of food. Now as I told you, human beings are heterotrophic as well as omnivore organisms, which means they depend on the other animal, plant and their products. For that mechanism, human beings have a human digestive system, because this holozoic mode of nutrition require a digestive system. So human beings have human digestive system, and this human digestive system consists alimentary canal, which includes mouth, esophagus, stomach, intestine like small intestine, large intestine, and the anus. Along with these organs, there are some associated glands, because these glands secrete some digestive enzyme for the digestion of the food. So the glands are salivary gland, liver, pancreas, intestinal gland. So these glands secrete different type of digestive enzyme which break down the food complex molecule into the smaller molecule. Now I will explain you how the human being digest the food material. What is the human digestive system? So here I am showing you what are the position of the different organs in our digestive system and the associated glands. Now move to the next part, mouth. So mouth is the entry point of the food in the human being, right? So human being ingest the food material, different type of food material through the mouth, and the digestion of the food starts from this entry point, from the mouth, because in the mouth there is some inner portion that is known as buccal cavity, and the roof of this buccal cavity is known as parietal. Now this buccal cavity includes teeth, tongue, and salivary gland. So this teeth and tongue is a part of our organ, and salivary gland is the associated gland. Now first I will tell you teeth. So teeth are present in the upper and the lower jaw, and the role of teeth is to cut the food material into the small pieces, which means the chewing, cutting, and grinding of food material is totally regulated by our teeth. So teeth playing very important role in the physical digestion of the food material, right? So means now digestion already started by the action of the teeth, that in the form of physical digestion. After that, the next important part is played by our tongue. So food is mixed and moved around the mouth with the help of the muscular tongue. So this is very important organ in our digestive system, in our body, which means this is an organ to taste sweet, salt, sour, and the bitter taste. After that, after the role of tongue, now salivary gland starts their own important role, because this salivary gland produces saliva. This is an enzyme. This is a digestive enzyme, and the pH value of this saliva is slightly acidic, means 6.8 value. This saliva basically just to wet the food material, and this wetted food material easily swallowed by our body through our esophagus with the help of tongue. So this saliva contains an enzyme that is salivary amylase, and the role of the salivary amylase is to break down the starch into sugar. Now keep in your mind, so in our mouth only carbohydrate get partially digested, because they are having three different type of important minerals, the food material like digestion, protein, and fat. So only carbohydrate starts its digestion, partially digestion, in our mouth. Now this food passes through the esophagus into the stomach. Now, so what is esophagus? Esophagus is just known as a gullet or the food pipe, because the partially digested food material goes down through this food pipe into the stomach, and this esophagus is about 25 centimeter long, right? And this esophagus is having very important muscles that contract rhythmically, which push the food material through the peristaltic movement in our stomach. Now, the second step of digestion starts in our stomach, because in esophagus, digestion not occur, only the passing of the food from the mouth to the stomach. The role is that. The stomach is widest organ of this alimentary canal, and it secretes some digestive juice through the gastric gland. So the gastric gland present on the wall of the stomach, and this gastric gland produces gastric juice. Now the important thing is that gastric juice contain an enzyme, that is pepsin. Now this pepsin is protein digestive enzyme. So our gastric juice contain pepsin, hydrochloric acid, and mucus. So the role of pepsin is to break protein, to break the protein. Protein is the complex structure. So this pepsin break down protein into the simpler form. And this hydrochloric acid make the medium acidic, and this acidic medium helps in the initiation of the action of pepsin. Now what is the role of mucus in that case? So mucus just protect the inner wall of the stomach, because as I told you, hydrochloric acid is very acidic in nature. Roughly pH is 2.2. So this mucus protect the inner wall of the stomach from this action of acid. Now the food exit from the stomach, that is totally regulated by the sphincter muscle which present in our stomach. Now after the stomach, after the digestion, partial digestion in the mouth, partial digestion in the stomach, now the food is passing in the small intestine. So this small intestine is the longest part of the alimentary canal. So the size is roughly 6.25 meters long. Now the important point that I want to tell you, the length of the intestine is correlated, which means it is correlated with the height of the human being. It never depends on the weight of the human being. And one more thing, in case of herbivore organism, the length of small intestine is much longer than the carnivore organism, because herbivore eat grass, which means it allows cellulose to digest, and for this mechanism it needs longer small intestine. But the carnivore who eat meat, so this these carnivore organisms do not require a long small intestine, so they are having a shorter small intestine. Now come to the digestion mechanism. So in our intestine there is a complex digestion of the carbohydrate, protein, and fat, which means all three components digested in our small intestine. So it receives the secretion of liver and the pancreas, which means the liver and pancreas playing very important role for the digestion of these food material. Now the food coming from the stomach, that I told you, acidic. Now the pancreatic enzyme make it alkaline. Here in the small intestine, bile juice from the liver act on the digestion of the fat, right? So the fat which present in the small intestine in the form of large globules, the bubble-like structure. So it is very difficult to digestion, but this bile juice make it easy, because this bile juice just break the large globule into the smaller globule and increase the enzymatic action of the digestion. Now move to the next part. The pancreas. Pancreas secretes pancreatic juice that contain trypsin and lipase. So this trypsin and lipase is very important for the digestion of the protein and the emulsified fat. Now after this pancreatic action, the food is digested by the intestinal gland which secrete intestinal juice. Means, so intestine have intestinal gland, and this intestinal gland secrete intestinal juice. So now intestinal juice convert the protein into amino acid, which means it break down protein into amino acid. Protein is complex structure, amino acid is a simple structure. Similarly, it also break down carbohydrate into glucose and fat into fatty acid and glycerol, which means that this is the site where complete digestion of the food takes place. Means the complex structure, all the nutrient having the complex structure, protein, carbohydrate and fat. So these complex structures finally break down into the simpler form, right? So why it is happening? Because the maximum absorption of the nutrient which present in the food material. Now the inner lining of the small intestine having various finger-like projection, that is known as villi. Now what is the role of these villi? The villi increases the surface area for absorption, right? So the digested food is absorbed by the blood, and this blood transport the nutrient to the different part of our body. Now after the transportation of the important nutrient, the undigested food material finally passes into the large intestine. Now keep in your mind, the digestion has completed, but the large intestine is playing a very different role, that is the absorption of the water from the undigested food material, which means the large intestine receives undigested food from the small intestine, right? And this large intestine also having the villi, and these villi help in the absorption of the water which is present in the undigested food material. Now after the complete absorption, right, the rest of the material, the residual material removed from our body through the ejection point, that is known as anus. So anus is the ejection point of the human being and mouth is the entry point of human being. That's why in that case we can say the digestive system is complete. Complete means that when any living organism having different point for the entry of food and the ejection of food, such type of digestive system is known as complete digestive system. Now this anus is having a anal inspector, and this anal inspector regulate the exit of waste material from the body. So this is about the nutrition in the human being, digestion in the human being. Now please keep few points in your mind. Digestion of food starts from which point? The digestion of food starts from our mouth, and the food having different nutrient, only carbohydrate partially digested in our mouth. Now which enzyme playing important role? Salivary amylase playing that role for the partially digestion of the carbohydrate. In esophagus there is no digestion, only the movement of the material. But in stomach, this is another site of digestion. So where the protein partially digested with the help of the enzyme pepsin, right? And who activate pepsin? The hydrochloric acid provide acidic medium which activate the pepsin enzyme. Next, mucus. Mucus is playing role for the protection of the stomach wall from the acidic medium. Now after that, the another role of digestion played by the small intestine. So small intestine, the site of complete digestion. So where the bile juice from the liver partially digest the fat, because fat is present in the form of the large globule. So these large globules of fat digested by the bile juice and it converts into the small globules. After that, pancreatic juice starts their action, which means this pancreatic juice having the trypsin and lipase, which digest the protein and the emulsified fat. And finally, the intestinal juice completely digests all the nutrient like protein, carbohydrate and fat and break down into the amino acid, glucose, fatty acid and glycerol respectively. And after the digestion, the water absorbed by the villi present in the large intestine. So these are some key points that you have to keep in your mind. Thank you.